Welcome back to the Pig and Whiskey Test Kitchen. Today we are going to show you how to make a bacon wrapped turkey. We are going to wrap it with a bacon lattice and smoke it on the smoker. Stay tuned. To brine or not to brine? That is our first question, and that's usually pretty easy to figure out. The first thing you want to do is search the label and the ingredients list to see if your turkey has been injected or brined at the processing facility. If you see this on the label, it indicates that the turkey has reached its saturation point, and the only purpose a brine would serve at this point is to add more salt to the turkey. And since salt is added at the processing facility, you run the risk of oversalting your bird. However, that doesn't mean we can't add more flavor. To do that, we're going to create an injection. We will start with 1 stick of butter. To that, we're going to add 1/2 cup of bourbon. Into the bourbon, we're going to add 1/2 cup of maple syrup. Pour that into the pan, and we're going to add a little Dijon mustard, and that will help emulsify the butter into the liquids. Next up, we are adding our seasoning. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of Heath Riles Pecan rub, and that will give it a nice flavor that will complement the maple syrup and the bourbon. We're just going to grind that into a fine powder and then dump that into our injection. Then we're going to add 1 whole container of chicken stock. Your favorite brand will do. And then we are going to put that on the stovetop on low until the butter melts. And after the butter melts, you're going to whisk that to combine, and then let it come to room temperature. Now our turkey has thawed over the course of 5 days, so we shouldn't have any problems with the turkey still being frozen. We are just going to open that up over the pan because we want to reserve the juice from the bird. Remove all the plastic pieces. All of the liquids will accumulate in the bottom of the pan and will create a nice steaming action that will help keep the bird moist during the cooking process. We're going to remove the Pope's nose and set that aside. Go ahead and pull out the neck and the giblets, and we're going to dump those into the bottom of the pan as we want them to get a little bit of smoke as well. We will use the drippings and the giblets to make a little bit of gravy to go on our turkey, and getting a little bit of smoke on those couldn't hurt. Once your bird is emptied out, we're going to flip it over, and using a sharp knife, we're going to start removing the skin. The biggest complaint I hear about smoked turkey is that people don't particularly like the skin because it becomes rubbery. Now, there are a few tricks that you can do to avoid getting a rubbery skin, and there are several different techniques, but we are not going to do those today. We are going to do something a little bit different. We are wrapping ours in bacon, so we are just going to avoid the rubbery skin altogether. Now, removing the skin will allow us to do a couple of things. It will allow us to get seasoning directly into the meat, whereas a lot of times the seasoning is superficial and stays on the surface of the skin. Also, we will get better penetration of the smoke into the meat. However, we do run the risk of drying out the turkey. So, in addition to using a bacon weave to preserve the turkey's moisture, we are also going to be basting the turkey with the remainder of our injection from earlier. Now that we have it skinned, we're going to give it just a light salting with kosher salt. We're going to season the inside of the cavity and the outside of the bird. Now, while the injection does have plenty of salt and the bird has been pre-brined, a little bit of salt will help form a nice bark on the bird that will also help to contain the moisture inside the turkey. Now that our injection has cooled, we're going to thoroughly inject the turkey. We are trying to inject in a downward angle into the breasts. And we are going to inject approximately at 1-inch intervals until we inject the entire breast on both sides. If you notice that on the wings and legs, we are injecting in a sideways manner, but we are also trying to make sure that we inject in a slightly downward motion as well. If you notice here, I am injecting sideways at an upward angle. When you do that, I don't know if you can see in the video, but the injection tends to leak right back out of the hole. By doing a vertical injection, the meat will contain the injection better. Here, we are injecting lengthwise along the legs, and that is because there are a lot of tough fibers and tendons in the leg. So we're injecting along with the grain of the meat, and that allows us to get down deeper into the leg. Here, I am injecting the thighs in a downward motion as well. And lastly, we will inject the wings. We will also inject sideways into the wing. Just a couple little squirts will do. Alright, now we're going to truss up the legs, and once you have those tied up, we are ready to rub our bird. We are going to give the bottom side of the bird a nice thorough coat. Today, we are only using one rub on the outside of our bird, and that is Heath Riles Pecan. We are going to flip the bird, and using our free hand, we're going to direct the rub onto the bird. We are going to cover the breasts and lift the sides to get the wings, and then we will part out the legs and sprinkle underneath. Now we are ready for the smoker. I am cooking another turkey today for my buddy. His turkey is just a basic Cajun seasoning, but we are pointing the thighs toward the hot end of the smoker. His is pointing towards the updraft where the heat flow comes from, and mine is pointing towards the firebox. We are throwing in a few chunks of hickory just to get a little smoke on the birds. It has been 1 hour, and the remainder of our injection has been sitting on top of the firebox, and it has now come up to a nice warm temperature. We're going to take our foil hat off our bird, give that a quick baste. Now we want to work quickly, as we don't want to leave the lid open for too long, as we don't want to affect the internal temperatures of the birds. We're just going to drizzle this, and we will keep drizzling this every hour on the hour for the next 3 hours. Okay, now while we wait for the bird to finish cooking, we're going to start our bacon lattice. Start by laying strips of bacon parallel to each other until you have approximately the width of one strip of bacon. And then we are going to fold every other strip at the halfway mark and lay a strip across the other slices. Then we will lift the other strips and lay them back down and keep working back and forth until the bacon weave's length and width are roughly equal to the length of a slice of bacon. Once you have the weave complete, just pat it together so that the slices will adhere to each other. Now we're going to set that aside, and once our turkey has reached the 3-hour mark, we're going to place our bacon blanket on top of our turkey. If we had done this at the beginning of the smoke, the bacon would have turned black before the turkey finished cooking. We're going to lay that down and peel back the foil. And once we do that, press the bacon to the bird and just tuck it in behind the legs on both sides. Make sure that your bacon weave is covering the bird as best as possible. Then we are going to cut some strips of bacon in half and lay them over the legs until we cover them completely. And then we will add one small slice just to cover each wing. We have cooked this turkey for about 3 hours now, and once we have the bacon on it, it will go back in and we will insert a probe into the deepest part of the breast and we will shoot for 155 degrees. Having a foil tent over the turkey will help to keep the bacon from burning. While turkey doneness is technically 165, we are going to pull it at the 155 mark, as it will continue to coast up to 165, and pulling it at 165 would cause it to go over and dry out the turkey. Forgive me here, I am slicing opposite of me. It's not easy to carve a bird this way, but I'm doing this for the sake of the camera. We're going to slice down the top along the rib cage, and then we're going to slice underneath the front and come up to meet the slice. Then slice along the thigh, and once you have separated the breast from the bird, we're going to pull that off and set that aside. I just want to show you how juicy this bird is, but I'm not really sure how well the camera picks this up. The great thing about having bacon on this bird is that when you're making your leftover turkey sandwiches, you can just slap on a few slices of the bacon to go along with your sandwich. This turkey is tender and juicy and smoky and delicious. Thank you for joining us today in the Pig and Whiskey Test Kitchen. Hope to see you next time. And remember, only jive turkeys forget to subscribe.